Creative solutions to global challenges often start at the local level. Join city officials from around the world to hear best practices for protecting societies through the pandemic and applying the lessons learned toward the SDGs.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the SDG Action Zone of the United Nations 75th session of the General Assembly. We are delighted to be in this session that we organized on behalf of the local and regional governments constituency. Because as we know, local and regional governments are leading the way to transform the world towards sustainability. We are very grateful that you are joining your voices to this very important gathering. As you know, this year, we are commemorating the 75th anniversary. Some people say that there is nothing to celebrate, but I think that local and regional government leaders like yourselves are convinced that we have many reasons to celebrate, a lot of hope, and many challenges to face together. We are here to share your views, your voices at this very, very important moment. I'm delighted to start this session with a brief video of the thinking that we have done in this extraordinary 2020 when a global pandemic has affected the world as we knew it, and the 10 recommendations that you suggested us to put together for the international community are summarized in that video.
Ce décalogue est basé sur 10 recommandations clés qui ont été apportées durant ces 2 derniers mois. Il sera l'instrument, notre instrument politique pour la crise et l'après-crise. Le monde de demain ne sera pas le même que celui d'aujourd'hui, car les sacrifices de nos communautés impacteront les générations futures et ne doivent pas passer inaperçus.
Tenemos la oportunidad de no volver a la normalidad anterior, una normalidad que tenía muchos problemas, muchas desigualdades, muchas injusticias. No queremos volver a la contaminación, no queremos volver a los desalojos masivos, no queremos volver a la especulación de bienes básicos, no queremos volver a la injusticia ni a la violencia. Hay que proteger la vida humana, poner la vida en el centro, y para ello hay que proteger los bienes básicos que la hacen posible.
Llamamos la atención particularmente de este sector de la población, habitantes de calle, que ha crecido en todas las ciudades del mundo. ¿Cómo aprovechamos estas medidas especiales que se han tomado de cara a la pandemia para poder generar inclusión, para poder lograr que estas personas se reinserten?
Los líderes de los gobiernos locales y regionales de todo el planeta estamos seguros que las regiones, provincias, ciudades, pueblos y territorios ya no volverán a ser los mismos después de esta crisis. Debemos cumplir con la seguridad alimentaria y también promocionar modelos sostenibles que generen riqueza y bienestar.
Kapsayıcı yeniliklerden yararlanmamızı sağlayan yakınlık üretim modellerinin küçük işletmeler ve yeni işletmeleri gözeterek geliştirilmesi gerekecektir. Gıda sistemlerine bölgesel yaklaşım, çevreye duyarlı bir şekilde yürütülmeli. Yalnızca güvenliği değil, sürdürülebilir modelleri de garanti altına almalı ve istihdam oluşturacak yerel kalkınmayı güçlendirmelidir.
Time has come to ensure full inclusion, full participation of women and girls in politics and the social fabrics of cities and regions. It's critical to put in place gender violence responses to protect women worldwide and ensure their access to basic services.
第七，应重视和关爱医护人员、社区工作者和志愿者，确保医护人员个人防护装备、医疗设备供应充足和工作环境安全舒适，确保在突发公共卫生事件发生时，医疗系统不发生崩溃。
In UCLG-MEWA, we are aware that the only way forward is via co-creation with our community volunteer local actors and with full collaboration and solidarity between different spheres of government. Culture needs to consolidate as the fourth pillar of sustainable development.
Culture is a fundamental tool to reorganize our societies and around more human ideas in order for us to restore lost balances and ideals, but also to create with imagination the chance to rethink and reinvent the world we want to live in.
Sigamos apoyándonos entre las ciudades, entre los gobiernos locales, que entre todos y todas vamos a seguir construyendo un mundo mejor post-pandemia.
UCLG has been fostering collective learning from the very beginning of the pandemic. Local and regional governments will continue to work tirelessly, learning and supporting each other as a worldwide system of cities, local governments and regions to lead the discussion with communities on how our future will be shaped.
So thank you very much for that. We hope that you found it useful. I would like now to introduce, without further delay, the President of United Cities and Local Governments, Mohamed Boudra, the Mayor of Al-Hociema. President, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emilia. Dear friends, dear colleagues, this special year 2020 and what we are going through has made clear that we have an important task ahead. Fighting inequality, promoting transformation towards a more just, more peaceful, and more sensitive world that answers to the aspirations of our people. Colleagues, as President of UCLG, I am proud of the commitment we have demonstrated with global challenges and solidarity. I am proud of the commitment of local and regional governments with multilateralism, and I am very happy that our vision report in the framework of the United Nations anniversary reflects that. An inclusive multilateralism will only be achieved in local governments and regional governments are truly at a decision-making table. I am grateful to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres since he has provided full support to our municipalist movement to provide our vision of how to transform the world for the next 25 years. Dear colleagues, our challenges now know borders, and the solutions need to start at home, locally, as close to the communities as possible. We are ready to contribute to the realization and localization of the global agendas because only thinking local and acting global, we will be able to ensure sustainable societies that leave no one and no place behind. COVID-19 has acted as a magnifying glass of the shortcomings we already were aware of. We can no longer ignore the persistence of inequalities, discrimination, and exclusion in our cities and territories. The fight against the virus is also a fight against poverty and structural inequality. This is particularly evident at the local level, which is at the front line addressing the effect of the crisis. The report of our constituency to the UN 75 is showing that the pandemic has galvanized the critical role of local and regional governments in raising awareness, in maintaining public service provision, and in protecting those who care of us, for us. Carrying our basic services, doing so with the ownership of our communities, is what we have been defending for many years under the mantle of localization. The local global movement for localization is growing, but it is still doing so in an irregular manner and without adequate support from other spheres of government. Let me be clear, colleagues. Public local service delivery around the world is in jeopardy if the adequate means are not put in place, unless the national and international recovery plans place local and regional government financing and resourcing at their core. We will not be able to maintain basic services, let alone build back better. Local and regional governments have been and continue to be in the front line in combating the multiple facets of the crisis, but we also rely on civil society, on volunteers and communities. Without this collaboration, no measure would have been successful. Dear friends, our hearts are in the right place, but we cannot do this alone. Basic services, the cornerstone of the recovery, are still an afterthought in the global debate. It is essential to develop an environment that fosters the delivery of basic services. It is critical to fully collaborate among spheres of government and involve all stakeholders in the process. The sustainability of the planet is at stake. Let us act now and rethink our priorities. Let solidarity and sense of humanity guide us. Let us not underestimate our capacities and potential acting together, and let us act keeping in mind the generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. Thank you for setting the scene and for voicing the 250,000 members of this century-old municipal movement that United Cities and Local Governments represent. I am going now to Mayor Buijs-Glaudemans, the mayor of Os in the Netherlands, a very active member of the National Association of the Netherlands Municipalities, a very active member in the European section of UCLG at regional level. What do the SDGs mean to your city and to the cities in the Netherlands? Do we still believe, Mayor, that the SDGs are the right framework in the post-COVID era?
Yeah, thank you, Emilia. Yes, I'm speaking from the Netherlands, from the city of Os. And when you are hit by a crisis like this pandemic, every fundamental value comes up and all day-to-day worries disappear. So these fundamental needs, they become the center of our attention. And then when you look at the SDGs, they somehow formulate those essential values very well. And of course, we were all hit by this pandemic. So SDG 3, good health and well-being, was at the center of our attention. But there was so much more. And my city was hit as one of the first in the Netherlands. And we had to go in lockdown. And it meant that elderly people couldn't see generation to generation anymore. They had to take care that they wouldn't be infected. And they had their way of getting their meals somewhere else, but they had to stay home. So civil society set up a meal program. So to make sure there was no hunger. And no hunger is very far in my country. And suddenly it came up. The schools had to close. So how to make sure that the young generation still got their education? And there was, we are lucky because we're in the West and we have enough money. So there was a lot of internet education. But the poor people did not have the laptops or the computers. And there were initiatives to make sure that every child had the facility of getting a laptop and a computer. So people work together on the basic needs that are so well set by the global goals. And what I noticed is that you have this sense of community at local level, and you have the sense of being able to help, and you have the sense people want to participate and they want to act on a local level. And it's so much more than just governmental help. But at the same time, locally as a government, you want to connect people, you want to connect initiatives, you want to assist, you want to direct the initiatives to a direction. You want to empower people and groups. And that's where the SDGs bind people, they connect people, they form a goal, they form a direction in which to help each other. And our association of the Netherlands municipalities plays a wonderful role in connecting the local governments in exchanging these ideas with the SDGs. And even our sister city in China, Taizhou, we had contacts and they provided us with mouth caps all the way from China. And it was a local to local initiative to help each other. So I think the SDGs are really at the center in times of crisis. And when I look at the United Nations and I envision the next 75 years, I think that there's a future in which not only the nations have to be connected, but the entire world and the people have to be connected. And I think my example from China shows that very well. I think there's a lot of initiatives already between cities. Of course, the UCLG, but there's also something called the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. And we have World Cleanup Day, where everybody goes on the street and cleans up. We have the Model United Nations for students who connect school to school. But I think it's not enough. I think we are still at the side of where the real discussion is, where the real decisions are made. And I think that with local level, we have so much to add. So I think a multilateral form of governance can be really something that helps, well, I think our main goal, leaving no one, leaving no place behind, and try to learn from this crisis and to refine and readjust to the basic needs, which are for us the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think we would like to work with the UN for the future, for the next 75 years on that.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. You are proving that you mayors are ready. You are ready for that seat at the table. It's time to get that seat at the table. It is time for us to bring the people to the global table. I think that mayors, from my experience working with you, are great multilateralists, because you have discovered that you cannot work locally without the international dimension. And thank you for these words. I'm going now to Africa. And I would like to invite Manuel Araujo, Mayor of Quelimane in Mozambique. You are a champion for sustainability, but also gender equality. Some of the topics that we have been making advancements on are topics that now, Mayor Manuel, they are saying to us, well, health first. We will talk about green environment later. Do you think that that makes sense, Mayor? How are you looking at these agendas in the COVID reality in your city, in your country? The Mayor is a great champion of sustainability, working with ICLEI, our sister organization, and member of the Global Task Force, member of the Global Executive Committee of that organization. So is that the narrative that you are defending, Mayor? Or do we need to push for sustainability?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. And let me congratulate the UN for its 75th anniversary, but also to congratulate UCLG for the crucial role it's playing in bringing together local mayors and the regional governors to this challenge. Indeed, as you mentioned, these challenges are becoming actually more prevalent, and COVID is just one other crisis among different crises, as you mentioned here, the environmental crisis, the development crisis, but also the challenge to build a sustainable world. So COVID makes all these other challenges more important. Actually, it brings together all those fighting, and mayors play a very crucial role. First of all, because of the legitimacy that we enjoy, because we have been elected by our neighbors, but by people who know us. So because of that, I think that we have more legitimacy in pushing these agendas, including the sustainability agenda, but also the issue of for growth and development. The second crucial important role that mayors play comes for the proximity that we do have. You know, in cities, for example, in small cities, but also in medium cities, mayors deal on a daily basis, and actually they are seen, you know, on a daily basis. So when challenges like COVID comes, or for example, Mozambique last year was hit by the Idai cyclone, mainly the city of Beira. And also we had another cyclone last year in the north of Mozambique called Cyclone Kenneth. We could see the crucial role that mayors played, because before the national government arrives or even responds, mayors are there with the people bringing solutions. For example, Beira, when Idai cyclone hit, they were shut out by road, rail, or air, or even by the sea. Like nobody could reach to Beira or could leave Beira. So the mayor and the government there had to deal with the situation where there was no communication, banks were not working, there was no electricity, no water. So we learn from that experience, and also we exchange experience. With COVID, of course, for example, up to now, primary schools, secondary schools in Mozambique, they are still closed. And as the previous mayor from the host city mentions, I mean, she brought to us some challenges from a developed city. Now you can imagine what happened in underdeveloped cities like Quelimane, where, for example, even to have network, to have the internet is like a luxury. Actually, I'm not sure if I will finish my presentation here or if I will get cut. So how can you change the schools, the teachers, and the students to be able of keeping the learning process without internet? Not even to mention the inability of people to get computers. I mean, it's a real challenge. Health-wise, for example, my city is the capital city, is what you call is the biking city of Mozambique. And like the main public transport is taxi run by cyclists. It's like, you know, people use bicycles to carry goods and people. And actually, this group of young people who put themselves available to carry people and goods have been identified as the most vulnerable people in the COVID situation, because they carry people. And how do you protect them? These are the kind of challenge that we face on a daily basis. But also, like market vendors or street vendors are another vulnerable group. So all these challenges, of course, they really match with all the challenges that the SDGs represent. So we bring them together and we try to address them in the context of the COVID crisis.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you for bringing the commitment of the thousands of members of ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability. They are the champions that have been trying to make sure that we go through that ecological transformation that we will need in the future. And as you say, sometimes if you don't have the means, the only thing that you can aspire to is to be the sentinel of those aspirations of the people, right, Mayor? So thank you for that, and thank you again for your commitment and for those of all the colleagues represented in ICLEI, an important member of the Global Task Force. I am going now to another reality. Mayor Araujo was saying that there are many types of crises. I'm going to Lebanon now. If there is a country in the world that knows crisis, then that is Lebanon, I am afraid. Mohamed, President of the Union of Dannieh Municipalities. How does a country hit by so many crises deal with a global pandemic, and what do the SDGs mean to you in that context, Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And the occasion of 75th anniversary of United Nations, I have to send all my greetings to the General Secretary of United Nations and all country members, and especially I won't forget to say hi to our distinguished General Secretary, you, Emilia, for the effort you have done to keep all our members stay connected and during this pandemic, this COVID-19, and for sure our President, Dr. Boudra, and all staff of UCLG World and Regional. So today the world is facing an alarming situation. A crisis is dramatically affecting people's lives and livelihoods. We are very aware and fully convinced that localizing SDGs and the cooperation and high level of solidarity are the best framework to reduce the worst impact of COVID-19 and all crises. We also know that it says global goals should be transferred to local actions in order to meet the needs of each society, which is only possible through the active participation of local and regional government. If we have a vision and we can transform it into action, we can achieve our goals and we can do the requested changes. We must deal together. We must respect each other. There is no localization of SDGs without democracy, without justice, stability, freedom, equality, without the right to education and health, right to women and youth. We cannot talk about solution without a participatory approach of all stakeholders and all relevant civil society actors who are the real partners. This is the role played by UCLG, which is committed to enhancing the capacity of local and the regional government in localizing the SDGs, empowering them to face enormous challenges and to reduce any kind of discrimination, representing the funding and amplifying their voices to make sure no one is left behind. Accordingly, it's worth mentioning the effort made by UCLG-MEWA members in the heart of COVID-19 crisis. We are working with you permanently and continuously to fight against this pandemic and limit its spread. In UCLG, we are also aware that the only way to move forward is via co-creation with our communities and local actors, and with the full collaboration and high level of solidarity between different spheres of government. Therefore, we created a platform that aims to share our experiences, our best practices, as well as challenges facing each of us. This platform is leading us to more resilient and pushing us to develop sustainable strategy and proactive plans to face any type of crisis, especially in what concerns the citizens who are at the forefront of any unexpected crisis. With the new and updated technology, our members are more empowered. They are acting locally for the common good of their societies and offering them the necessary public services to be more resilient. Besides, As we know, the United Nations was established for two main reasons: conflict resolution between countries and real development in countries, especially in countries under development. But since that time, no real achievement has been made. In contrary, the rich got more power and the poor got poorest. Therefore, national and international, governmental and non-governmental organizations must support the United Nations in this mission, in its mission, because it's the only organization in the world capable to find a common space to negotiate and to solve our problems. It is time to put a comprehensive strategy with a relative action plan in full cooperation with the United Nations. It's necessary to unify our effort, to be optimistic, to make continuous revision, adjustment, and evaluation to our action plan. Due to the success of our association, UCLG, through its direct contact with CSOs and local and regional government on national and international level, I'm sure that the United Nations can count on our support and benefit from our experiences to find solutions to global challenges, to accelerate the localization of SDGs, and to build resilient cities and societies against all unexpected pandemic and disaster that may occur. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President, for these words. For people, for planet, we need more UN, not less UN. I think it is very clear in the context of this commemoration what local and regional governments feel that a new multilateralism needs to look like. And I think all of our global, local and regional governments networks very much agree with that. We look forward to sharing our visioning report that we were given the opportunity to produce at the invitation of the UN Secretary General. We will be doing it in the coming days. Thank you for this very strong message. I'm going now to Ms. Thembisile Nkadimeng, Mayor of Polokwane, President of the South African Local Government Association, and also co-president of United Cities and Local Government. Clearly a woman, clearly an activist. Mayor, you are closing this gathering. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emilia. Dear colleagues, dear friends. The key findings of our report are very clear. They've been articulated by the mayors who spoke prior me, but I think the immediate priorities as we see them as UCLG of our communities is to be able to enjoy full access to the basic services that are now more than ever proven to be essential to live a fulfilling life in our cities and territories. This pandemic, as we now know it, has made one thing abundantly clear. We, local and regional governments, play a role, an essential one, and have done so even more during this pandemic in raising our awareness, in maintaining the functionality of our basic public service provision. Local and regional governments from all over the world have, through these basic services, worked to ensure equal access and protected those public servants that deliver them. No more than ever, it is imperative to guarantee that our communities enjoy this equal access to essential resources and services, that they have access to decent employment, capacity building activities, and the promotion of innovation by the development of technological vocations. It is also equally critical to take care of public service providers, those that carry and deliver our basic services and value their contributions to society. The findings of our report shows yet another crucial fact for the future. Our communities are ready for a more inclusive multilateral system, for a world that includes all of the population in the decisions that will affect them, for a world that does not leave women, youth, and mostly the vulnerable behind. Dear friends, as the constituency of local and regional governments, we need to listen to this call from our communities. It is our duty to trace our steps. It is our duty to go back to our origins by protecting and promoting the voices of our communities through a strong local democracy. One, by being faithful to the values and principles of decentralization. Secondly, subsidiaries and responsibility. Two, we need a global endeavor to answer to this call, but also we need to change our approaches to urban and regional governance to adapt to the challenges of the post-COVID-19 era. We need to reform global governance in order to accelerate local responses to global crises. Throughout the course of this pandemic, our spheres of government have demonstrated an incredible display of solidarity, who have often, without sufficient resources, promoted exchanges, shared best practices, and who have also come together to promote policies, approaches that care for our communities. This needs to continue. International cooperation will be essential for the recovery and further to achieve the Universal Development Agenda that we have agreed upon. Local and regional governments must be the guardians of this international solidarity. We must also be aware that the only way forward is via co-creation with our communities and local actors, including the private sector, and with full collaboration between the different spheres of government. Of course, there have been shortcomings in our system that COVID has also exacerbated, call on us to create, collaborate between all spheres of government, including stakeholders and local actors, to ensure that we build back better. So it is essential that we carry this holistic approach to the emergencies that we are facing, but that we will also face in future. And said approaches must not adversely affect individuals and collective rights, but must be the backbones of our democracies. In conclusion, I think I am convinced, and collaboratively as a team, we are convinced that a strong multilateral governance system and a new collaborative governance culture that can guide the steps in such an interconnected realities is necessary. We present a package of measures for the aftermath. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We are not only commemorating, but celebrating multilateralism. I think it is clear from this session that, yes, the UN Charter is still very valid, that the UN needs to represent the people, because we, the people, are the ones that need to define our destiny. And there is no way to do that without solidarity, which is demonstrating to be a beacon of security, like the president was saying at the very beginning. It is clear for local and regional governments that we will need to think the world from the local level with the communities, and we need to act together globally. It will need to be a green recovery, a green building back better, where inequality is not an option, where we are all sitting at the table, because you mayors are ready to do this and do not want to work in the sidelines, like the mayor of Oz were saying. There is no room for discrimination. We need to rethink governance. We need to take care of those that take care of us, and redefine what is essential and what essential services entail. And one of those things that we see as a given, such as technological access, is something that will need to be part and parcel of those new rights that need to guide our transformation. I thank you very much for your inputs, a very rich discussion. A lot has been said in very little time. We are delighted as ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability, as United Cities and Local Governments, as representatives of the constituency of local and regional governments gathered in the Global Task Force, to have been here for people, for planet, in the SDG Action Zone of this 75th General Assembly session. Thank you very much. keep healthy, keep well, keep creative. Bye. Thank you.